Jungkook's voice, there was an almost electric stillness in the air, like a secret the world wasn't ready for but couldn't ignore. It started with a single note, clear and resonant, the kind that feels familiar even the first time you hear it. It wasn't just talent, it was something deeper, more mysterious, almost like a message from someone who had lived lifetimes before finding the courage to speak. For many young fans, that moment wasn't just discovering a new voice, it was discovering a mirror reflecting their own hopes, fears, and dreams. At first, he was just one of 7 young men who burst onto the world stage with BTS, a group whose name would soon become synonymous with breaking boundaries. But as Jungkook's voice grew stronger and his presence more magnetic, something extraordinary began to happen. What seemed like a star in the making became a beacon for a generation searching for meaning, connection, and a soundtrack that spoke to their hearts. From the earliest performances, Jungkook's voice carried an emotional depth that went beyond mere melody. It felt like storytelling, a journey from vulnerability to strength. When he sang about love, it felt intimate and genuine. When he poured emotion into a high note, audiences around the world felt understood in a way they never had before. Suddenly, his music wasn't just entertainment, it became comfort during heartbreak, courage during doubt, and inspiration for those who needed it most. What makes Jungkook's impact profound isn't just his technical talent. After all, there are countless gifted singers in the world. What sets him apart is how he uses that talent to connect with young people on a deeply human level. In interviews, fans heard him talk about pressure, insecurity, and the weight of expectations, real struggles that echoed their own. In videos shared across platforms, they saw tenderness in his laughter and quiet determination in his eyes. Here was someone who had achieved global superstardom, yet wasn't afraid to show his flaws. And that honesty became a rare and powerful kind of inspiration. What if greatness isn't perfection? His journey seemed to whisper. What if it's persistence? By the time Jungkook began releasing solo tracks, the world was already watching, but now they were listening with intent, not as passive fans, but as individuals searching for resonance in a noisy world. Songs that he poured his heart into became anthems for anyone who felt unheard. His lyrics, whether written by him or chosen by him, touched on themes of self-reflection, resilience, and finding light amid darkness. And although each fan experienced his music differently, there was a shared thread. Jungkook's music didn't just live in the background. It became part of people's personal stories. Halfway through this journey, something remarkable happened. Jungkook released a song that wasn't just another hit, it was a revelation. The melody was hauntingly beautiful, but what shook listeners wasn't the sound, it was the raw truth behind it. For the first time, a global superstar invited his fans not just to enjoy the music but to feel every unspoken emotion behind it. The song spread like wildfire, but the reason it touched so many wasn't because it was catchy, it was because it felt like a confession from someone who had finally stopped hiding behind his own fame and vulnerability. Listeners described it as hearing their own hearts echoed back to them in a way they never expected. That moment became a turning point, not just for Jungkook's career but for the young generation that had grown alongside it. Suddenly, music wasn't just something to stream on repeat, it was something that opened wounds, healed scars, and carved space for real conversation about mental health, self-worth, and the courage to be imperfect. In online communities and real-life conversations alike, fans would share how one line from his song helped them through anxiety, or how a chord progression gave them courage to chase a dream they had buried for years. What makes Jungkook's influence so profound isn't just that millions admire him, it's that millions feel changed by him. Because when he sings, he doesn't just perform. He connects. He invites listeners into his emotional world, and in doing so, he gives permission for others to explore theirs. In a generation inundated with highlight reels and perfection, his music became a rare space where vulnerability is not only accepted but celebrated. Beyond the studio and the stage lights, his influence has spread into the everyday lives of young people around the world. There are aspiring artists who say they picked up an instrument because Jungkook made them believe music can be a language of healing. There are students who write original poetry inspired by his lyrics, and others who journal about hope after feeling seen by his voice. What started as a melody now fuels creativity, courage, and connection across continents, crossing language barriers in ways few artists ever have. And what's perhaps most inspiring is that Jungkook never positioned himself as a perfect idol untouchable on a pedestal. He positioned himself as a human being, with dreams, anxieties, and a fierce love for creation. That choice, more than any hit song or sold-out tour, is what makes his impact so lasting. It's one thing to captivate an audience with talent. It's another to transform them by lending them courage to face their own lives with newfound bravery. So, if you've ever felt unseen, if you've ever turned to music in the quiet desperation of your own challenges, then Jungkook's journey isn't just a success story, it's a testament